Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And rarely we talk about the difference between radial and air-cooled engines. And even less, we talk about politics. But today we'll probably talk a little bit about politics. How we get off on the discussions of the superiority of air-cooled over radial engines is always fascinating how we trail off. But anyways, we had a primary election day in Nebraska yesterday. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who don't know what a primary is, it's where you decide who's going to be the chief of your party on the ballot later on in the year when midterm elections come up. So midterm elections are always kind of interesting in the United States because of the fact that usually whichever party is in power currently usually loses one of the two houses. Yeah. It's almost invariable. It's extremely rare in a mid-year election that somebody doesn't lose. If they control only one, they usually lose that one. If they control both, they usually lose one. And it's pretty much been that way as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
You don't ever see a president convince everybody to swap, to change. You never have somebody a president in the midterm become more popular, that his party becomes more popular. It's always the opposite. It's really interesting the way our two-party system works. But anyways, Bill,
there's a chance we could actually see them losing, given the current track record. There's a good chance that, from what I'm hearing from various analysts, mm-hmm. There's a good chance that they'll probably definitely lose the House, but also there's a slim to a possible chance they'll also lose the Senate.
Yeah, I would more suspect that the Republicans will lose the House and keep the Senate this time around.
Well, but yeah,
you never know. They're going to lose one of them.
Definitely.
It's a matter of which one.
History says that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's fascinating the way that, like I said, our political system works. Love it or hate it. People say they hate capitalism, while they complain holding their iPhone, never had one take a deposit for a gold cell phone either. Yeah, I'm just saying that we have a unique system that, in the long run, I don't know that anybody in the government really has our best interests at heart, but, we like to think that somehow maybe they do, maybe there's hope for somebody new, and most of the time I just think it's theater.
No, possibly. Although, there are, again, what do you know in the soul of, the heart of anyone? Again, I got the opportunity because my involvement here locally within my county, in local party politics, let's put it that way. I got to meet a number of the different candidates and, have befriended them. And so I sort of have a vested interest in how it turns out and how they fared yesterday.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm curious. So what did you see among the independents? What did the independents tend to be wanting?
The independents are technically what we call here nonpartisan.
Right.
There isn't actually sort of a category of independent. So when you register, you either register as a Republican, you register a Democrat, or you can register as a Libertarian or a Marijuana Now party. That's kind of the four basic ones. So what you end up registering generally is as a nonpartisan, mm-hmm. right? So you are non-aligned or, whatever you want to call it. So there is no specific party affiliation. So you, in a sense, you're independent. So you can go either way. So my job yesterday was to go from 7:00 in the morning till 9:00 at night as a poll worker, and my job was basically to assign who gets which ballots and write their name down in the official logbook and tally how many Democrats got what ballot, how many Republicans got what ballot, and so on. So I'm very deep in the nitty-gritty of this thing, which was challenging because instead of having one ballot, we had 14 or 15 different ballots we had to manage. So But anyway, what I found interesting about the independents or the nonpartisan uh, ballots was how many of them requested the Democratic nonpartisan ballot as opposed to how many requested the Republican ballot. We got nobody that requested the liberal nonpartisan or the Marijuana Now Party ballot. Everybody was either a Democrat or Republican. And
Mhm.
it was interesting how many Republicans, how many requested Republican, how many requested the Democrat. And by and large, by a margin of, I think we had in our polls, we had a total like 45 nonpartisan voters. Of those, the
Mhm.
vast majority asked for the Democratic ballot. We had
Mhm.
only 6 of the 45 actually request the Republican ballot.
Hmm.
Everybody, 10 of them didn't want either ballot, but all the rest, like 32, 33, requested the Democratic ballot, which,
Well, like I was saying,
again,
Bill,
take,
our
take
our, our
it for what it's
system,
worth.
our system, for through the miracle of what those guys did 250 years ago, um, you know, it works, and it should. It should be constantly changing
Yep.
parties, and it's gonna. We like I said, if it doesn't change, if one of the if either the House or the Senate doesn't flip, I'll be shocked. Okay,
Yep.
because no matter what, it's always happened. I mean, and it's just the way
Well,
history has always played out.
yeah, one of the candidates that appears to have won last night, um, he and his wife knocked on 7,000 doors.
Wow.
Their run within Sarpy County, 7,000 doors. And so I was talking to him Monday night, just before the election. Well, how do you feel? And I bet the missus is, I won't name names here, but the missus is kind of tense. But how are you doing? He said, well, he says, I've been stressed out. Actually used to manage a biotech firm, as a matter of fact, here in town. And so he's sort of used to the pressures and things. So he was pretty calm. But he was telling me, he said, we've knocked on all these doors, and just with consistency, we talk to, whether they're Republican or Democrat or unaligned, right? Is consistently how dissatisfied they are with the current direction in which governmentally the country is headed.
Mhm.
So, and of course he had the one guy was complaining, I don't know about this marijuana thing, because we've had this ongoing battle now to introduce legal medical marijuana. And so he's concerned, well, that's just opening the door for, recreational marijuana and all the different things. And, I guess there's some validity, but it turns out because this particular candidate actually has a degree
Mhm.
in biochemistry, believe it
Mhm.
or not. Okay, so he knows about this. So he explained, well, part of the problem is we made marijuana a Schedule One drug, so nobody could test it. It's just there was no way to get anybody. So now there's finally at Johns Hopkins and other places, we're finally be able to start doing some tests. So he was able to talk to this guy, but almost all of the people he talked to who were willing to open the door and talk, right? A lot of
One of the
doors.
things I love, and this is really hard to explain to non-Nebraskans. So we're generally considered to be one of the friendlier states in the country. Okay, you can go door to door here, and people will be polite to you and friendly and receiving, and it's not the same as most of the rest of the country. Okay, and but people here will be honest, and even if you disagree, people don't hate each other here, and it's really,
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time. It's like, I could move to Florida. I could move to Texas or California. I get people all the time in the type of work I do that are shocked I don't live in New York City or Palm Beach. Okay.
Warren
And
Buffett doesn't live in New York
no,
City. He
but
lives here.
until you come here and you get used to the people, and then you realize we're the utopia that everybody, we're the utopian society that everybody dreams of, just with bad weather. Um, it's yeah.
We
Well,
have we have variety, unlike California, Florida.
Yeah. So one of the things is here, if you made recreational marijuana legal, I don't think it's going to be the same issue you have in California because we're not Californians.
Yeah.
Okay. Californians are just more free loving people. And that's not, that's not the Nebraska way. And so we have plenty of alcoholics here. Okay. There's no shortage of alcoholics, but I'm just saying that I don't think it's really going to be the problem that you'd think.
Well, you know what? One way to look at this too is the fact that do you know where they put the what do they call that? The disease, center to do the research, where all the people that were on the boat with the hantavirus. You know where they brought them?
Did they bring them to Omaha?
They're here in Omaha.
Oh God, they did that with COVID too, didn't they? Or no, they did it with Ebola.
We have world-class biological containment and treatment facilities here in Omaha. Now, if you didn't trust these people and this state, you wouldn't want to put that center here, would you?
No.
This is where they brought them. They're sitting down. They're sitting downtown or in the med center right now, being treated and looked after.
Yeah, that's nuts, isn't it? I remember when they brought people here with Ebola. And I'm just like, what are they thinking bringing them to Omaha? Why do we want Ebola patients here for?
They got to be treated somewhere, and this is the best place to do it.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to some electric vehicle news. Okay. We're 12 minutes into the show, and we're going to start talking. So this was kind of a funny one. Motley Fool has named Rivian as top growth stock for 2026.
Oh, all right.
I'm not going to say that I think the Motley Fool's really that great. Okay. But Rivian continues to be a top pick among analysts despite roller coaster stock performance. Strong position as a monster EV stock for a 5-year hold. Company showing resilience amid broader EV market challenges. Like I said, this is the opinion of the Motley Fool, not my own. And I find it interesting, but it's always interesting kind of to see. EVs are overpriced junk. Well, that leaves lots of great deals for the rest of us, right? We report all the time about how they're starting to be cheaper than gas cars now, and they last longer than gas cars. So I don't know what the junk would be. It's a better driving experience than a gas car. I don't know what the downside would be. It's especially when we're talking Tesla, the most American-made car using the most American-made fuel. I don't know what the downside to that would be.
Yeah.
So anyways, we don't get too many haters.
Can I just interject here?
Mm-hmm.
Mother's Day was the 7th anniversary of our accepting the delivery of our Fiat 500e from California, which was a 2016 lease car that we bought in 2019. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We've got just shy of 40,000 miles on it. I just plugged it in to bring the battery up because my wife drives it, and it was down around 16 miles or something like that. What do you think the now EPA rating on that car new was 84 miles, 24 kilowatt hour battery pack.
God, what a small battery.
7 years with 40,000 miles, how much do you think when I charge it, I'm getting now?
81.
Nope. 108.
That's because of the way y'all drive.
108 miles. Now that has to do with the weather and has to do with how my wife is driving and things like that, right? So there's some factors here. But 108 miles at 100% state of charge.
Bill gets at least a 25% premium on the mileage on his EVs.
It's my wife driving it, not me.
Yeah.
And she likes to hot rod a little bit.
Yeah, you get the super fuel efficiency of your on your EVs because your Bolt. What is it? It says you have 300 miles range on a 240 mile battery.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you're getting 25% extra. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, that's nuts to be getting. Once again, he's getting 25% over. All right. Lucid Motors suspends 2026 production guidance amid their CEO transition. Now, we reported a week or so ago they've hired a new CEO. Lucid withdrew full-year production guidance following the new appointment. The company reporting a $1 billion net loss in quarter one. Actually, $1 billion net loss sounds like an improvement. I mean, implementing 12% workforce layoffs and 29-day production halt costing $40 million. Oh, I wonder what that's all about. Uncertainty clouds the luxury EV maker's path forward despite new Gravity SUV launch. Once again, I'm going to say the Saud family is not letting Lucid go out of business. Oh, nice. That's good range on a Solterra. Yeah, you're an easy driver on that car. So I forget what the sovereign wealth fund for the Saudis is called, but they own 70% of Lucid.
It's like PPA or something like that.
Yeah. Anyways, they're not letting Lucid. They're manufacturing Lucids in the kingdom. So besides what they're doing in the U.S., they're doing stuff over there. They're not letting this company go bankrupt. Anyways, U.S. automakers face self-inflicted $70 billion EV losses. New InfluenceMap analysis reveals U.S. automakers lobbied against the very emissions regulations that would have stabilized their EV investments. Industry flip-flopped on policy positions based on political wins, creating regulatory uncertainty. While U.S. automakers took $70 billion in writedowns, China became the world's largest auto exporter. Chinese automakers surged ahead, unhampered by self-sabotage as global EV demand continues rising. Now, China's dropped a whole lot of their incentives for people in China to buy EVs now.
Exactly. They're still selling.
Yeah. But they've already achieved 50% market share of EVs in the largest auto market on the planet. And, when we talk EVs and we talk about the massive numbers sold worldwide, I mean, more than half of all those EVs are sold in China. And it's not just hard to just fathom how big that car market is.
And it's not easy buying an electric car in China. It's not like you go down to your local used car dealer and, pay the guy a few, $100 or whatever and walk off the lot. Just to get the license, it's like almost a lottery system, to get, particularly around Beijing. I can't necessarily speak for the other thing, but it's expensive just to get the license, permission to buy the car and license the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's, it's crazy the way that, though, the U.S. automakers, and U.S., whatchamacallit, the government flip-flopping back and forth on incentives isn't helping matters.
No.
And it really unintentionally hurt the big three more than anybody. It hurt Tesla a little bit, but it didn't hurt them like it did Ford and GM and Chrysler.
All the legacy manufacturers, yeah.
Yeah. Should shout out the latest Rich Builds videos. Goes to China and compare Chinese EVs, Tesla full self-driving, even got his Chinese driver's license. Nice. It's we hear enough from people who are prominent that go over there, and Musk says that Chinese EV manufacturing is the big leagues. You heard the CEO of Ford. He even brought back a Chinese EV.
Jim Farley. He didn't want to give it back.
Yeah.
There's a video of a guy that I saw today. I don't think I linked to it, but he was saying that he flew 8,000 miles to test Chinese autonomous cars. And it says America is so far behind the curve on the automotive technology that is being now rolled out by the Chinese that we don't hold a candle to what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, our next story kind of gets into this a little bit more. And, somebody criticizing EVs, not realizing, oh, here we go. EVs are a waste of money. So Tesla Robotaxi, the premium it's adding to the market cap of Tesla is valued at $750 billion. $750 billion. Bank of America estimates the robotaxi opportunity adds three-quarters of $1 trillion to Tesla's valuation.
That could be.
2026 is being called Tesla's defining year for the robotaxi rollout. Full self-driving unsupervised execution is critical to the thesis. 358,000 cars delivered in quarter 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Owen, I mean, we have to take what journalists, for whatever their motives, whether they're just straight or whether they're getting a little bit of assistance from the Chinese, political party, because there are people out there that are paid to, show for the Chinese, right? The Chinese party. So we have to take some of the things, all these things about how great Chinese robots are, how great Chinese cars. You got to take a little bit of that with a grain of salt, because there's a lot of government propaganda money being, pumped into the environment, either social environment or whatever, right, to help polish the image of the People's Republic of China. So, but I've been there a couple of times. They're an industrious people, a hardworking people. The government sucks. They'll never get back. I'll never be allowed back in, but their government just plain sucks.
You're losing social credit.
I'm losing social credits right now. But, those people, they wouldn't be where they are. And I won't repeat.
If it weren't for the communist system.
Pardon? Yeah, if it weren't for the dang communist system, if we kept the, the original party of, I don't know about Chiang Kai-shek, but what was envisioned in the early 1900s, when they finally threw off the shackles of, the emperor and the empress and all that stuff. Amazing. I mean, technologically, where did gunpowder come from? Right? Where did silk come from? Where did modern, porcelain ceramics come from?
And silk. Like I always say, and this is the one thing though, China gets things done to a certain degree because they're, we always talk about how they're a country run by engineers, not like the United States is run by lawyers. In the United States, you pass a new law, so you elect a government, you pass a law for them to do something, and then the other party sues to keep that from going into effect. And it's like, that doesn't seem right. We've already decided at the polls what we want. And then somebody's deciding, well, I don't like that, so I'm going to sue.
Medical marijuana being the case in Nebraska. The voters overwhelmingly said, yes, let's do it. And what did the legislature and a few, aren't staunch conservatives there do? Everything they can to drag their feet and stop any kind of serious implementation of it.
Yeah. It's another one of those things where I think should be people's choice. I mean, there's a lot of things I'm not so sure that really need the regulating that the government is putting in there. And marijuana is one of those things.
Yep.
I mean, sure, I don't think 18-year-olds should have access to it, or teenagers or whatever. But and certainly, I don't think it should be any less than what if you can't have alcohol till you're 21, you probably shouldn't be allowed to have weed either. But I'm just saying that I don't think it's people make too much of it. I don't think
like I said, it got scheduled, for whatever political reasons. Because remember, we got to go back to Nixon and the whole, 80s thing in the Chicago, the Democratic convention, all that way back before probably most of the people listening to this podcast were even alive, right? And it got got rated Schedule 1, which meant you couldn't do anything. If you even had it, you were in trouble with the law.
Well, I've seen oxycodone and hydrocodone absolutely ruin people's lives and kill some of them.
Yep.
Because they went on heroin that was laced with fentanyl or whatever, they OD'd and died. Okay. Yep. And it was because doctors prescribed them stuff and then their personality couldn't handle it.
Yeah. True.
And, I don't see marijuana as being the danger that those things are.
Yeah, they're very good. Hard to regulate plants and fungi.
Yeah.
I have a particular interest. I will be honest, in mycology, and I've looked at, I have looked and read. I have a book on psilocybin and things like that. I've never grown it. I don't intend to break the law by doing it, but there is value in those substances that, because they got scheduled the way they were with the government, it's almost impossible to get any serious researchers involved in doing clinical research and trying to come up with ways to make those things beneficial for people. So, I think we're kind of moving in the right direction. But, I've heard what was it? The Trump administration is talking about maybe loosening up some of those regulations and things so yeah, we got to keep moving forward. And obviously, we're all concerned about the harmful impact. I think we found that by research, we found that young people using marijuana, it's having a detrimental effect on their brain development. And we
Sure, but we
certainly,
don't. We can all agree we don't want teenagers and
yep.
kids using it, right? There's a lot of things. It's just like booze. I mean, there's a reason why you don't want people under 21 drinking, but they
Yeah.
still do. Just
Well, and then if you're really going to take this whole thing to an extreme, I drink coffee every morning, several cups of coffee, So could you say that caffeine in the coffee is, should be regulated? I mean, grocery stores sell the stuff, and nobody checks for my ID when I take a pot of like a box or a can of Folgers out of the store.
I've known people who've taken some of those energy drinks that they sell in the cans
Yep.
that have started hallucinating at work. Okay, they drink so many of them. A lot of them say don't drink more than one a day.
Yeah.
And one of my guys on commercial construction sites would drink like five, and he'd
Oh,
start just talking just weird about things that were like he was like hallucinating or something.
yeah. Yeah.
And it was really hard to get him to, hey, dude, you got to stop doing this because you're turning crazy when you're doing this, and he didn't really understand it. Anyways,
Here we go again, off the track. Sorry, everybody.
I'd rather we got back to radial engines. It's probably weak compared to the weird drugs they sell at every gas station and have no regulations and claim everything.
Yep.
Yeah, but a lot of those things, a lot of the herbal stuff doesn't do much. But there's some, herbal things I take that over the years that have become regulated. And, there's some of them. I have one that I really like called Finibut. Finibut was created by the Soviets. I don't remember what the original intent for it was, but it's like an anti-anxiety thing. And if I take it before I go to a conference, I become a real social butterfly. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm pretty talkative anyways, and I can warm up people pretty well. But on this stuff, I mean, like the idea of going on stage and speaking, it's like it's old hat. It's just so easy to get up in front of people. And it has the same effect, I tell people, as if you had a couple of alcoholic beverages, but without the drunken
buzz.
Yeah. And it's just like you're just like really in a good mood and all that. And nobody imports it in the United States anymore because of the FDA. And but anyways, so it's incredibly difficult to get over here. But it'd be beneficial for people who have anxiety. And so, it's just, but it's an herbal thing. It's not, although I honestly don't know if it comes from an herb or what it comes from. I just know the Soviets created it, and it's been around for a while. But anyways, next one, legendary investor Ron Barron, who manages about 55 billion in assets, says the SpaceX, the IPO is imminent. And he predicts that it will become the largest company on the planet in value, which that means it'd have to go from 1.75 trillion to surge past. I mean, because NVIDIA sits at right around 5 trillion. So it would have to surge past that. But
past that, huh?
Yeah, his portfolio is heavily weighted toward Elon Musk companies, Tesla and SpaceX. There aren't that many companies anymore because now SpaceX pretty much owns most of the other stuff.
Hmm.
SpaceX owns XAI. What's interesting is we'd reported about how the XAI data center in Memphis had some questionable issues related to the gas turbines and everything that went there. And now, who has Musk rented that space to and all that computing power? Anthropic. So now Anthropic is using the Memphis Colossus AI Center for their LLMs, which I thought that was interesting that he did that.
I'm wondering if reality will be reflected in cinema, from cinema. Mm-hmm. Because if I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the movie Wall-E, right, the little robot that falls in love with another robot and all that, the reason that all the humans fled on that giant space cruise liner mm-hmm. and left the Earth vacant and a junk heap, a pile of junk heap, is because there was one large single company that controlled the economy. And so I'm wondering, oh God, you've got a space company would be the largest, is that where we're headed? Because he's talking about going to Mars, or is the movie premise of Wall-E
it makes you wonder.
Realized in real life someday?
But so much though of SpaceX is Starlink and XAI. Here, Grok.
Exactly.
Okay? Now, Grok, when you list LLMs, most people will say, well, there's OpenAI, there's Claude, there's Gemini. You don't normally think of Grok, at least I don't. It's not like one of the first ones. I usually will even think of DeepSeek before I think of Grok.
Yeah. Okay. I tried using, I thought, well, I'll try using Grok today. And I got there and it would not let me do anything unless I subscribed. A lot of these I can go in and do simple things and it'll, let me do it for free. Grok today, the version I went to would not let me do that. I said I had to pay them some subscription fee or whatever it is. So,
well, I know I'm going to have to do Grok because of, what I've got planned for my next vehicle. And because I want to be able to use the whole experience
right
in the car. And, and I do so much with AI now that it would only make sense to be able to integrate it with the car. All right. Elon Musk and Tim Cook are joining Trump on a trip to China. High stakes diplomatic summit includes two of tech's biggest CEOs.
Well, with huge investments in that country between, Tesla, Shanghai factory, and then you've got Tim Cook and Apple with, all kinds of assembly facilities over there. So yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Grok is often. Oh, you say it's overloaded versus overlooked?
Could be overloaded too.
So one of my friends pays for the Grok Heavy. I think it's called Grok Heavy subscription or something like that. It's their largest. It's like $200 a month. Yeah. And he says he loves it, but I've never used the premium version. I've only ever done a couple queries on just the basic, and you don't get the same experience with the basic as you do with the premium version. Yeah. Just like with Claude Code, to get a lot of the good features out of Claude, you have to be on at least $100 a month plan. And so, whereas like with ChatGPT, you can get a lot of it on the $20 plan, and the ones I use, I get them on a $20 or $25 a month plan where I get pretty much all the premium features. Anyways, let me see. So here was something kind of interesting that snuck in here. A nuclear fusion company claims grid power soon. This is from CNN, an unnamed fusion startup claims commercial grid power is approaching. Now, we reported last week, we were talking about Commonwealth Fusion is claiming they're close. But, I've seen stuff but the guy who's the CEO of TAE, the one that's merging with Trump Media, he's saying 2031, for them, and the other people I've spoken with in person, they're saying, they don't know, maybe still 10 years, they're there's just so many issues with, we talked about supply chain and all this other. I'm not going to get into all that today, but it's interesting to see where some of that is going. So there's this company in Texas called Blue Energy, which I think I've talked about them before. I don't know if I actually talked about them on the show. I know I've discussed the company before, but they've got a partnership with GE Vernova, and they're doing a gas plus nuclear hybrid operation power plant in Texas. Their goal is basically they're going to provide LNG until nuclear is available. And so that way they're getting this data center power now. It's like they really were the first ones to really kind of come up with this idea, to be a combined company selling both LNG and nuclear on the back end, but that already had a data center client. Now, this Blue Energy already was doing Bitcoin mining. So they were already doing big power draws already.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot of people switching over. I mean, I had somebody ask me for help with, there's like 20,000 square feet of floor space available in a hospital, and wanted to know about getting energy there to be able to convert it all to data center space. And
so this is what it's the hospital's closed and it's an empty building now, or
no, it's just one of the floors. There's 20,000 feet available on one of the floors. And they were like, hey, let's rent it out to be AI.
Okay.
It's like, well, that's kind of random. It needs about 6 to 7 megawatts of continuous power to make that work. Not gigawatts. And it's so easy to accidentally say the wrong thing.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be off by a magnitude of 1,000. So,
yeah. All right, Bill, let's talk about offshore wind creating unintended marine ecosystems.
Yeah, this is fascinating. So, as you're aware, the administration has, for whatever reasons, hates wind. They're buying companies off and, passing presidential edicts to try to stall it. It keeps growing, but one of the contentions is the fact that when you're building these things, you seriously disturb marine life. And most of that is during the construction phase, when they're driving the pylons. Because you can imagine, if you've ever been around a construction site where they're putting the pylons down to build a skyscraper or something, right? That's noisy. Wham, wham, wham. And that sound is amplified through the water, right? So it ends up driving marine creatures away from where they're building these things. So that is a concern. Does it last after construction stops? No. In fact, what happens, it attracts marine life, because now you've got these pylons and steel ropes and whatever they're holding it down with now become a collection point for marine life. So you got various types of mollusks and things that start to cement themselves to the sides of these devices. That, in fact, then attracts small fish and crustaceans and things, and that attracts bigger fish, right? And ultimately, what you do is it attracts, marine mammals, seals, porpoise, things like that. So they're finding that once the construction stops, these things actually become marine sanctuaries. And one of the reasons being is because fishermen are restricted, commercial fishermen are restricted from doing fishing, dragging their nets and things like that through these things. So it becomes a small preserve, if you will, for underwater, and above water mammal marine life. So they're working out to actually be beneficial once you've got them built and stopped. Now, what happens, however, that's the first story that I posted up in the editor's pick. But then I started thinking a little bit more deeply about it, and I did it, again, with AI's assistance, started researching. And it turns out, if you read down to the EV World exclusive stories, you'll find that actually what's happening is what happens, they stop piling, but what happens with any kind of noise and vibrations that are just constantly being generated by the turbines themselves. And that is a little studied area. And they found that the bigger the turbines get, which is what's happening, we've got things that are enormous in size. What's happening is that increases the noise level in the ocean. And so we really, at that point, we really don't know how that's impacting marine life. We know once you stop building, it becomes quiet, you bring the marine life back. But does the continual operation of those and the sounds that are being generated, the vibrations generated, and being transmitted to the water and to the surrounding air, what impact does that have? And we do not know that. So that's an area that needs to be studied more.
The only thing I see with the offshore wind, and it's not really an issue per se, it's just the fact that they're producing the electricity not near where it's being used, most likely. So they're putting it
Very
out at
possible.
sea, and then you're having to transmit it a long ways. And you know how we're always talking, the real cost in electricity is transmission. And I often, I wonder how that trade-off works. That's probably more of a Mike question. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's like, well, it seems like you're getting kind of remote. But you look at all the wind we have around here, Nebraska, Iowa.
And we take
Wyoming,
very little advantage of it in Nebraska compared to Kansas, Oklahoma, South Dakota, North Dakota, Colorado, Wyoming.
Now, I suspect a lot of those wind farms, like down in Kansas, are probably powering the local town, right? So maybe they're powering the town that's a mile or two away, kind of thing. But I don't know that. I often wonder how far that wind energy is being transmitted. It's like the idea of building a solar farm on the other side of the state. It's like, well, what's the point of that if you have to transmit it all the way across the darn state, to make it work? You really want to create the power. This is one of the beauties of SMR nuclear reactors, is that they can be put on the location where the energy is really being drawn, right? And save all that cost of, transmitting. When you have solar on your roof, there's no cost to transmit it anywhere, so there's big advantages.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the expense of the transmission lines is part of it too. I mean, I talk about this all the time. When you're looking at your electric bill, more than half of it is cost of infrastructure and transmission.
Moving those electrons, yeah.
Yeah, and if you're in some place where electricity is like 25 cents a kilowatt hour, it's probably costing 5 cents to produce the power, 2.5 cents a profit, and the other 17.5 cents is all transmission costs.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nuts. Anyways,
you look at the substation. Look at a substation, just a substation. Look at all the cost it takes to build and maintain that substation. As opposed to a few towers, spaced every quarter mile or whatever they are, just to do that. I don't know. I mean, these are questions that Mike would be more than capable of answering, I'm sure. Mike,
yeah, I'm sure.
Listening.
Yeah,
we have a topic for you.
Yeah, we do. Anyways, all right. Well, folks, that's all we have time for today. I want to thank everybody for watching. I had lots of comments today.
Yeah, can I add one thing? It's a requiem, I guess, for Solar Impulse 2. If you're an old-time, EV World reader, you know that we followed the flight of the Solar Impulse around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right, this completely solar-powered airplane with two very courageous pilots came across. They never came to Nebraska; they always stayed south. But it turns out that Solar Impulse 2 has been upgraded or converted over to autonomous flight.
Oh.
So there's no pilots involved, and they were doing autonomous flight testing off of the Gulf of Mexico, and something happened and it crashed, and so we've lost Solar Impulse 2.
Oh God, they fly that out of the Stennis Space Center, don't they?
What's that?
I think they fly that out of the Stennis Space Center down in Southwest Mississippi on the Louisiana border.
Probably wouldn't surprise me in the least. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we lost that a historic aircraft. I don't know if they'll ever replace it or not, but that's my little comment about that. And we can ring off now if you like.
Well, I guess I can't go see it. I have to go down there to that area in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah,
Anyway,
we'll be there
we won't
now.
be there. Yeah.
No.
Oh well. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. This is the only show we're doing this week. We'll be back next week.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right. Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.